Today, Canadians are waking up to headlines they never thought they'd see. A move described by some as the most significant shift in decades is unfolding in Ottawa. Prime Minister Mark Carney, in what many are calling his boldest step yet, is said to be preparing a massive boost to seniors' benefits, changes that could transform the way millions of Canadians live, retire, and even survive. It's being talked about as a lifeline, a recognition of years of struggle, and a political gamble with enormous consequences. For decades, Canadians have relied on two pillars in their retirement: old age security, better known as OAS, and the Canada Pension Plan, the CPP. These programs, designed in another era, were meant to protect against poverty in old age. But in recent years, seniors have been sounding the alarm. The math no longer adds up. Rising food costs, skyrocketing rents, and mounting medical bills have left far too many Canadians choosing between groceries and prescriptions, between heating their homes and paying for transportation to the doctor's office. Consider this: the average OAS payment in 2024 was just over $713 per month. The average CPP payout for new beneficiaries hovered around $814. Together, for many seniors, that meant roughly $1,500 a month. But when rent in a modest city apartment averages $1,400, when the cost of a weekly grocery basket for a single person has hit $120, and when prescription copays eat away at what's left, the math tells a harsh story. Tens of thousands of seniors, after a lifetime of work, were left scraping by in quiet desperation. Advocacy groups have been relentless. Reports to Parliament have called the situation a silent crisis. Seniors' organizations argue that dignity in old age is not a privilege but a right. And for years, Ottawa's response has been the same: minor adjustments, inflationary tweaks, and promises of reviews. Yet tonight, there are whispers that Carney's government is about to break with that history. Sources suggest that beginning as early as January of next year, both OAS and CPP payments could see what is being called a historic adjustment. Numbers being floated are striking: an additional $200 per month for OAS recipients, and a tiered CPP top-up that could bring another $150 for average pensioners. If true, that would mean as much as $350 more in seniors' pockets every month, over $4,000 a year. For someone already on the edge, it's the difference between skipping meals and filling the fridge, between rationing medication and taking the full prescribed dose. Supporters of the move say this is nothing less than overdue justice. They point to seniors like Margaret, a 76-year-old widow in Winnipeg, who has lived in the same apartment for 30 years. Her rent has climbed to $1,350. She receives just under $1,500 a month in combined benefits. Every month is a decision between eating properly and paying the hydro bill, she told reporters earlier this year. If this boost comes, it means I can stop living with that knot in my stomach. Or consider Ahmed, a retired bus driver in Calgary. After 35 years on the job, he collects $900 in CPP and $700 from OAS. That leaves him with $1,600 a month. He drives his grandchildren to school because he can't afford a car of his own anymore, relying on hand-me-downs from relatives. An extra few $100s could allow him to buy fresh produce regularly, pay for dental care he's been putting off, or even consider visiting his daughter in British Columbia for the first time in 5 years. But not everyone is applauding. Critics warn that the cost of such a plan would be staggering. Early estimates suggest it could add tens of billions of dollars to federal spending over the next decade. Economists question whether Ottawa can afford this without raising taxes or cutting elsewhere. Some political opponents argue it's a short-term play designed to shore up support among seniors ahead of the next election. This is politics, not policy, one Conservative MP was quoted as saying, and the bill will come due on the backs of working Canadians. Still, the mood among seniors advocates is one of cautious hope. The Canadian Association of Retired Persons has called the move a step toward restoring dignity. They remind Canadians that poverty among seniors is not abstract, it shows up in food bank lineups, in overcrowded health clinics, and in the mental health struggles of older Canadians who feel forgotten. The timeline remains uncertain. Some insiders hint that details will be revealed in the government's upcoming fall fiscal update, with legislation potentially tabled before year's end. Others warn that consultations could delay full implementation until mid-2026. But for the millions of Canadians over 65, the prospect of change is already sparking emotional reactions. Phone lines at MPs' offices have reportedly been jammed with seniors asking when, how much, and who will qualify. And there's another layer of suspense. Questions remain about whether the boost would be universal or targeted. Would wealthier seniors, those with multiple pensions or investments, see the same increase as those living below the poverty line? Would the changes apply retroactively to those already retired, or only to new applicants? These details could determine whether the move is seen as bold reform or simply another patch on a broken system. For now, what we know is this: Canadians are talking about seniors' benefits in a way they haven't in decades. This isn't just about numbers on a government check. It's about dignity, security, and the promise of a country that doesn't abandon its elders. It's about whether Margaret in Winnipeg can buy groceries without fear, whether Ahmed in Calgary can pay for his health needs without debt, and whether countless others can spend their final years with a measure of peace. Mark Carney himself has remained careful in his language. At a recent town hall in Toronto, he acknowledged the urgent challenges facing older Canadians, and promised that his government would act with fairness, compassion, and fiscal responsibility. But he stopped short of announcing specifics. That silence has only deepened the suspense. In a country where over 7 million Canadians are now over the age of 65, the stakes could not be higher. These changes, if they happen, will ripple through families, communities, and entire provinces. They could shape not just the daily lives of seniors but the political destiny of the nation. And so today the question remains: is Canada on the brink of a new era in social policy, or is this another headline that will fade before real action arrives? For seniors counting every dollar, every day, the answer cannot come soon enough. As the debate rages, one truth stands out: this isn't just about politics or economics. It's about the very fabric of Canadian society. It's about how a country honors those who built it, how it treats those who have given decades of work, and how it chooses to define dignity in the final chapters of life. For millions, hope is rising. For others, doubts remain. But either way, Mark Carney's big move has already shifted the conversation, and Canadians will be watching closely in the weeks and months ahead. Because in the end, this story is not about Ottawa. It is about the people who feel every dollar, every increase, every cut. It is about the mother who can finally buy healthy food. The grandfather who can finally fix his broken dentures. The couple who can finally turn on the heat in winter without fear of what the bill will look like. That is what is at stake. And that is why this moment feels historic, and as this story develops, one thing is certain: Canadians everywhere will be watching, waiting, and wondering if this promise will finally match the urgency of the need. For seniors, every month matters, every check matters, every decision in Ottawa carries the weight of real lives. That's why it's more important than ever to stay informed. Stories like this don't just affect seniors, they ripple through families, communities, and even the next generation that will one day rely on these very programs. If you want to keep following every twist, every update, and every consequence of Mark Carney's big move, make sure you're part of this community. Subscribe now, join the conversation, and don't miss what could be one of the most defining chapters in Canada's social history. Because the decisions made today will echo for decades. And together, we'll uncover what they really mean, for our parents, our grandparents, and eventually, for us all.